it's me, Amanda, and we've got Felix here today. So today I'm going to talk about, well, the main topic is going to be my 5-star reads for 2023, which I know it's getting kind of late to be doing that kind of a video, but life is what it is, right? So first, I'm going to start with a quick recap of my reading for last year and what my goals are for this year. And I figured I wouldn't make a separate video for this because it's going to be pretty quick. So last year I read 109 books, which is an absolute record for me. Even back when I was reading a lot before, I think my record was like 74 books one year, or maybe it was like 79 or something. Anyway, so this was quite the year for me. And I read about 35,000 pages, and I forget how many minutes of audiobooks. I think it was like 52 minutes because I'm listening more to audiobooks right now than I was for most of the year. So that's I'm really happy with that. I mean, it's stunning. It's stunning considering the year before I read like 20 books, you know? I think it was like 22 books the year before, and then suddenly 109. A lot of it is because I read a lot of romance. Romance tends to read quick, and I do have some younger books there. I did have some YA and a little bit of middle grade because I have children. My kids are kind of too young for middle grade, but there's a few books here and there that we can sneak in, like the How to Train Your Dragon books and whatnot. So, quite the reading year for me. Again, I'm really happy about it. This year, my Goodreads, official goal is, I set it at 75 books, and I set it for 25,000 pages and 200 minutes of audiobooks. Sorry, I said Goodreads, I really meant Storygraph. I do use Goodreads too, but I like Storygraph way more. So, those are my, set goals. This is what I'm going for this year. Now, I set it lower because I wanted to encourage myself to be able to tackle some of the larger books that I own, some of the more challenging books. And if I take more than just a few days to finish a book, I start to get antsy. But I wanted to encourage myself to try to move beyond, go past that, and read, some longer books without hesitating. And also, trying to keep up with the goal, being like, oh no, I'm getting behind. I didn't want that. So I was like, I'm going to set it a little bit lower, but it's also enough. Originally I was going to set it to 50, but I think this is a little bit better to challenge myself just a little bit, And I set the page goal lower too. I mean, I suppose I could have been like, you know what, I'll set the page goal, at what I managed last year. But at the same time, my thought process for that is that I would, sorry, this is Sketch, one of our dogs. He's so happy to see me right now. No, I don't really want your kisses right now. So, that I also set a little bit lower because I was like, something could happen this year and I might not get to do as much reading as I really want to. So I figured let's keep it a little bit lower. And then I had no idea what to set the audiobook goal to. So I just picked 200 hours. I'm like, sounds like something. Okay. So those are my goals. The only other thing I'll mention real quick is I also decided to do the 12 in 12 challenge, which is you have 12 friends, or in my case, friends and family, pick 12 books for you to read throughout the year. And so I am also doing that this year. I'm currently in the middle of my first book for that. I will tell you guys, someone on Instagram recommended The Count of Monte Cristo. Now, I know this is a really great book. I've heard such good things about it. It's a classic, and people love it. But, that book is insanely, massively long, and it's a classic, and it's translated from another language. Oh my God, no. I am not reading that this year. I'm sorry. Maybe Maybe if I'm in like the best mood ever and I'm like, you know what? It's November and I've met all my goals and I want a challenge. Yeah, maybe then. But no. I'm not reading that. I'm sorry. I know I'm a jerk. I know. Let's go ahead and get into the 5-star books I read in 2023. This is going to be chronological. It is not in any sort of like preference order. So the first one I have is Abhorsen by Garth Nix. This is the third book in the Old Kingdom series. It was originally a trilogy. There's more books now. But this was the ending originally. This book was fantastic. It was such a good ending to a trilogy. I love it. I think about it from time to time still because like just the ending really got me. There were some amazing character arcs. And God, I just absolutely loved this book. And I highly recommend the whole Old Kingdom trilogy. The first one starts with Sabriel, and basically it is fantasy. It's YA, but more mature YA, I would argue. It's a world where they have like zombies and whatnot, and death is like a multi-level process. And there are these people called abhorsens, or typically there's one abhorsen and there's an abhorsen in waiting. And they help make sure that people actually go where they're supposed to go when they die. They also fight various undead creatures and whatnot. And it's really cool because there's an old kingdom and it's like a medieval-ish style place. And then across the border, there's another land where they don't have magic called Encelstier. And it's more like 1920s-ish vibes there. It's really cool. Highly recommend this series. And God, if you get to Abhorsen and you read that, it got me. I loved it. My next 5-star read was The Shadowed Sun by N.K. Jemisin. And this is the second book in a duology. The first one, yes, it was The Killing Moon. I got it right. So this one, also fantasy, and it takes place in a desert world. For me, it gave kind of Egyptian vibes, but mostly probably from the desert setting. But the magic system is more Four Humors based, which I thought was really cool. So this book takes place significantly after the first book, after what happens in the first book. And so you're dealing with the repercussions of that, which I can't tell you because, But this one, oh my God, took me by surprise because just the whole way it worked was fantastic. There's a scary plot line that got me all nervous and was creating anxiety, but then there was another separate plot line, and I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend this. It's adult fantasy. I don't want to spoil it too much, but there's a really good romance in it that got me big time, and that's one of the main reasons I gave it 5 stars, but loved it. Highly recommend. My next 5-star book was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. This one is young adult, and it is a mystery, a little bit of thriller mixed in, I'd say, where a girl named Pip is doing her senior project, and she has decided to solve a local mystery that happened, a local murder. Well, more of a mystery because they never found a body, that happened in her hometown. And everyone suspects it was this girl's boyfriend who murdered her. But Pip has a suspicion that something else happened instead, and she's investigating. It was fantastic. The whole mystery had great pieces that fit together. It kept me going throughout the whole thing. I really enjoyed it. The second book is decent, still pretty good. I hated the third book with a fiery passion. I've never hated a book as much as I hated that book, to be honest with you. So you could just read the first one and you'll be good. You don't even have to read the second one. No offense to it. It's fine, but you could just stop there. My next 5-star book was Uprooted by Naomi Novik. Oh my god, I loved this book. So this one is adult fantasy. I do like fantasy. This one has a little bit of romance too. Basic concept is there's this guy called the Dragon. And every, I believe, 10 years, I think, he goes and he gets a girl from a village. And I think the villages nearby might rotate. I can't remember. And he takes her. And we don't know why. They do come back after 10 years, but most of the girls after that time are like, you know what, I just want to peace out. I don't want to live here anymore. Like, they just peace out. And in exchange for taking one of the girls, he helps protect the village from the scary, scary nightmare woods that are right nearby and the creatures in the woods and all that. And I loved this. I loved this so much. Our main character is basically unexpectedly picked by the dragon. Originally, everyone thought it was going to be her best friend, but he picked her instead. And like I said, this book was fantastic. And I was gripped the whole way through. I have to admit, I liked the first half more than the second half, but that's okay. Like I said, I really enjoyed it. And it just, I don't know, this book got me. There's some creepiness in it too, but it was like spooky creepy, which is what I like. I don't like gore or body horror. I'm not into that, but spooky creepy, I'll go for. Man, this was great. The whole time, super engaged with it. Next, I've got A Man Called Uwe it's Frederick Bachman. Now, this one is about a man named Uwe, and it basically goes into his current life versus flashbacks of what his life was like. And he's basically a really cantankerous old guy. He's good at fixing things, and he's just really fed up with things in general. He's been through some major hardships. He ends up very slowly befriending this new couple that moves in, that becomes his new neighbors. It's great. It's very heartwarming. There's a lot of sadness and tragedy, but again, it's very heartwarming, and I just absolutely ate it up. Highly recommend that one. Well, obviously, they're all 5-star books. I recommend all of these. Why would I keep saying that? Next, I did Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. This is a romance novel, straight up romance, and I loved it. This one has Alexis, and oh my god, I forget the guy's name. I forget everybody's name, let's be real. But Alexis is older than him by almost 10 years, but they have this instant connection, and she's a doctor, and he's a small town handyman, and he also carpenter, and he owns a local inn. That's right. And it's just this great romance between the two of them, and it has that whole concept that you would see in a Hallmark movie where it's she's this big town gal and he's this small town man, and oh, she falls for him. But the conflict of her not fitting in with his world is actually a big problem. Instead of so many of those, I feel like they really downplay that conflict. They really act like it's not that big of a deal. And in this one, it is treated like it's actually a big deal, which I really enjoyed. I really liked that about this one. So if you are into romance, there's one to check out. Then next I have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez, which is the second book in the series. They are standalone. It's a series of standalone, so it's a completely different couple. That one is Brianna and Jacob, and they're both doctors, and Brianna has dealt with recent trauma of her husband cheating and leaving her, and then, oh my god, Jacob. He is a beautiful, beautiful flower of a man who has very intense anxiety, but he is super handsome, super sweet, and he's just such a pure soul. And their connection is intense, and It's one of the most, like, you've got me, like, really hard. I read it so fast. I'll be honest with you on this one. I'll be honest with you. I didn't like the last quarter of this book. There's some stuff that happens. I did get annoyed with Brianna. I love her. I feel for her. I did want I wanted them to be happy, but at the same time, I did get annoyed with some of that. I think the book could be a little bit adjusted and it would be better. Like, there's room for improvement. And I understand other people not giving this 5 stars. And I understand other people flat out disliking this book because of it. But I gotta be real with you. The first 3/4 of this book were so perfect. It got my heart too much for me to rate it any lower. And then another romance, It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. That one, is it another lady named, I think it's Pippa? Brandon, I think is the guy. Anyway, she's this, like, hot stuff socialite, and she finally goes one step too far by breaking into on the roof of a hotel pool, and she's in trouble, and her stepdad's like, you know what? You need to GTFO, girlfriend, and, like, you need to figure out your stuff. So she goes to live in the town where her dad, who had passed away when she was very little, was from. And apparently he owned a bar. And so she's like, you know what? I'm going to get this place up and running and successful. And she meets a very handsome widower fisherman, crab fisherman, very cranky man. And it's just, the dynamic is great. There's a lot of great moments in it. I absolutely loved it. Tessa Bailey is hit or miss with a lot of people. I have overall really enjoyed her books so far, but yeah, I can understand there are certain things that might not jive with people, but this one was great. The Secret Book of Flora Lee. This one is historical fiction, and oh my god, this book was very emotional. So this one has 2 separate timelines going throughout the book. We've got World War II, and we've got, I think, the 60s. And it centers around a young woman named Hazel. And during World War II, she and her little sister Flora were sent off to the countryside to avoid the conflict happening in London and all the bombing. And very tragically, while they're out there, Flora goes missing. And this is something that you see the later repercussions of, where it has been haunting her for all this time. And she was absolutely heartbroken. She and her sister, despite they did have pretty big age gap of almost 10 years, they were very close. She loved her little sister so much. And you just feel the pain she feels. It's so good. So good. Highly recommend it. I loved the ending of this book. So check it out. That was a good one. Oh, and I forgot to mention it was by Patty Callahan Henry. Next, for me, is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. Now, all right, Emily Henry. I feel like everyone has their Emily Henrys they like and don't like. Some people just don't like her. Legit, you know? And I know a lot of people don't like this one in particular, but me, it got me hard. First of all, I'm a Friends to Lovers girly. I love Friends to Lovers. I think it is a trope that's hard to do well, though. Like, very hard to pull off properly. But this one, oh my god, I felt it. Because again, I felt the emotional feelings between the 2 characters, which is Alex and I'm not going to remember her name. I'm going to pretend her name's Poppy, because, like, everybody's name's Poppy. No, wait, her name actually was Poppy, I think. Anyway, I felt it. So they're 2 friends who, they're very different people, and they become friends and go on lots of trips together basically they go on a trip every summer. And the connection between these two people is just so intense, and you can feel the feelings and the emotions are all there, and they have a deep connection, and oh my god, I loved it. Next one I have is Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This one is sci-fi. I'm sure a lot, if you're into books, you've probably heard of this one. It was rather popular. This one, I think I'd like to keep the synopsis really vague, but basically, we're in a situation where a man wakes up and he doesn't know what the heck's going on, but he eventually figures out he's on a spaceship. And it turns out he's on a mission to save planet Earth. This is great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the science and the little clues that happen in this book. And I don't know, there's not a lot I'm going to specifically say. I think it does a really good job of keeping us going. There's little bits and pieces that we learn throughout the book as things start to pull together. And it's just a very character study. It's very similar to The Martian, except in The Martian, everyone's trying to save one guy. This one guy's trying to save everybody. So there you go. And then my last 5-star of 2023 was God Killer by Hannah Kaner. Adult fantasy. This one takes place in a world where gods are real. And the way the gods work is they have like little shrines, and they also take offerings, and then when people pray to them, it makes the gods stronger, and they can in turn help people. But a lot of the times, or pretty almost every time, the gods, it gets to their heads and they can become big jerks, and they can also require people make bigger and bigger sacrifices to them, to the point of sacrificing actual people. It's very dangerous. And so we follow a character named Kissin, who is a god killer, and she runs into a young girl, Inara, who is bonded to a small god named Skediseth, and he's a god of white lies. And then they end up meeting up with this knight named Elogath, who is on a mission to help his friend, the king, because it seems like he's being kept alive by something and he needs help to keep him alive. And that is the start of like an adventure where there's some mystery, but there's also, the big thing I really liked about this is it's very character driven. There's a lot of interesting inter-character conflicts between all these characters and figuring out what their motivations are, if they can trust each other, and it's good. I really enjoyed it. So that's it. That is all of my 5-star reads of 2023. So let's hope I have more 5-star reads. I've had one so far here in 2024. Oh, and actually, if you got this far, could you leave me a red heart emoji? Because we're getting close to Valentine's Day.